Welcome back to the Movie Battleground, everyone. I am your guest host for tonight, Noah McCausland, or McLovin, and I'm excited to be back as a host. You guys are excited to be back watching the Movie Battleground, and I can tell you this is going to be an interesting match because we have two rookies here. I'm not going to introduce them too much right here. I'll let them introduce them on the 1v1, but two rookies and just kind of how they were talking in the chat before this. I'm excited to see how this one goes. I'm excited to see who these guys are and what they're going to be able to bring to the Movie Battleground. We've seen rookies go far in this league just with the reboot alone, with names like Chad Webb, John Maher, Jay Burns, Will Cohen, Austin Howell, names like that. They go far in the Movie Battleground. So I'm excited to see where these guys' Movie Battleground career take them, and excited what they can bring with. So without further ado, introducing first in his Movie Battleground debut, I have Brandon Cohen. Brandon, welcome. How are you doing? I know you had a rough day, so hopefully this goes well.
Yeah, I had a student randomly attack another student mid-class today, so that was fun. And then just took me an hour and a half to get home. So I locked my notes in my classroom, so I'm doing this all up here tonight. So I'm ready to go.
Wow. You're ready to go.
Let's rip it. I'm fired up.
Well, you're not the only teacher in the Movie Battleground. I think
there's so many
good competitors. Amaru, I know he's a teacher. Can't remember some other ones, but right now. But no, how are you excited?
I'm excited. It's different. I've done some debating before. I don't know what I'm doing. I've done some debating before. I've judged this before, so I've seen this format before. I'm excited. It's a little different than I'm used to, but I'm excited. I'm excited to make my points across and see if I can convince some people. So we'll see.
Well, we're excited to have you here. Thank you for coming to join this community. We'll place you to the back as we introduce your competitor for tonight, and it's also his Movie Battleground debut, Mr. Sean Sandberg. It's pretty straightforward, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Sean Sandberg, welcome to the Movie Battleground.
Nailed it. It's like Sandberg, but with sand in it. So, yeah.
Like Adam Sandberg?
Pretty close.
How are you doing today, sir? How are you feeling?
I'm doing all right. Been a bit of a hectic work schedule. I know that both Brandon and I have had a lot of work incidences that have stopped this match from happening before. So I'm really excited to kind of get into this. I did pretty well in trivia, but I don't know how well I'll do in debate. So it'll be interesting. I might just have to go back to judging after this.
Oh, no worries. I've lost quite a number of times, and while I can tell you it never feels good, it's always so much fun just participating, just debating itself. And I hope you guys have fun tonight. Any other notes? Any other things you're ready for this match?
No, I'm much like him. I'm just kind of going off of this right now because I haven't had much time to prep. But honestly, it'll be fun. I think this kind of fly by the seat of your pants might lead to a good debate. We'll see.
I know all different people have different ways of debating, and that work better for them. A lot of people like prepping and have the notes in front of them, and a lot of people just go off the cuff of their head. And those people, it depends who you are, but those people both can do really well in this league. So I'm excited to see you guys go up. So without wasting any more time, let's get into the rules. Movie Battleground is the best of 5 or first to 3 points wins. Each round of debate is going to be worth 1 point. If one competitor earns the first 3 points in a row, that is considered a victory by knockout. If it is a 2-2 draw at the end of 4 rounds, we will go to the tiebreaker round, which is called the blind round. And that's where some spiciness happens. It's a lot of fun. Rounds 1 through 4, competitors were given the questions ahead of the match and have had time to prep their answers. The first stage of the question is the 60-minute opening. The second stage of the question is the 2-minute rebuttal. The third stage of the question is the 4-minute open debate. The fourth stage of the question is the 60-second closing. Then 3 judges who are going to be myself, Mr. Allen, Dr. Spaceman, and Jonathan Peck are in the back, and they are going to help us out. They'll give your judgment of who won the round. Because this is your debut match, Sean is the favorite due to being a judge for slightly longer than Brandon. So he's going to choose to go first on questions 2 and 4. So Brandon's going to go first on questions 1 and 3. And if you guys are ready to go, have any questions?
Rip it.
Awesome. So the first question, Martin Scorsese is a director who doesn't seem to miss much. And he really got his career started pretty early on. And so we're taking a look at the best of the best, really, of his filmography. So what is Martin Scorsese's best film released in the 1970s? And without further ado, I'm going to pass it right over to Brandon. Brandon, you have 1 minute when the clock begins ticking. Oh, whenever you speak, the clock begins ticking. But you have 1 minute to introduce your movie.
So this was a tough question because it really comes down to 2. And there's one that stands out. But I truly believe that is not his best. I believe his best film is his kind of debut in Mean Streets. The story is a beautiful coming-of-age story spanning multiple characters. You have Harvey Keitel, you have Robert De Niro, and you have these guys just trying to make it on the mean streets. And it does things. It's amazing to watch because it is his first like feature length. It makes it that much more incredible. And we'll get into seeing some of the things that he does as a beginner is just mind-boggling. And you see all the building blocks that he does out his career, and it all starts at Mean Streets.
The first minute of the match is underway, and we'll pass it right back over to Sean. Sean, you got 1 minute when you begin speaking.
While Mean Streets is a terrific film, I'm not going to argue that. You do talk about it being amazing for what he did as a beginner, but the experience that he got from that film led to what is my choice of Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver is such an incredible film from so many different levels. It is arguably the best film that takes place from a first-person perspective. The way that the music informs that directing decision is absolutely incredible. And on top of that, you talk about how Mean Streets, the city is very much a character within it, but it is equally true in Taxi Driver, if not more so. And with that, I will concede the rest of my time.
All right. I'm going to watch. Oh, I guess I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to let Aaron do his thing and go right up to the 2 minutes. So, Brandon, right back over to you. You have 2 minutes whenever you start speaking.
All right. So let's dive deep into what makes this movie incredible. First off, you got to start with any Scorsese movie. You got to start with the sound. And this is the movie that really popped off the Scorsese-ness that is his scoring abilities. Opening up, you have the pool hall fight open up with Be My Baby. You have the pool hall fight. And if you like Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy, that whole pop song coming with a fight scene, that started in Mean Streets. So first off, we have the pool hall scene, as has been talked about, and that scene is just shot amazingly. The wherewithal to use the camera and shake it so you know that there is a lot of chaos going on. The way it pans up, Robert De Niro, above all, smacking everybody down. It's just beautifully shot, and we got to talk about the characters. What I love about Mean Streets is it's a character study, just as Taxi Driver is, but you dive deep into multiple characters. Harvey Keitel, Harvey Keitel deserves better. He's the best. I love Harvey Keitel. He deserves so much more, and his themes of Catholic guilt that he deals with throughout this film are just, he wants to be this guy who's running these streets, but he has this guilt of his faith tying him down that is really kind of holding him back in the sense. So you have these themes of what right and wrong that are prevalent throughout the film. You have the lighting. I've noticed you have you have the use of red to kind of show right and wrong. You have the use of music. It's fun, it's heartbreaking, and really just seeing world-class actors kind of having fun with each other.
All right, that will be your time. Thank you, Brandon. Sean, you got the same exact 2 minutes whenever you begin speaking. I believe you are muted, sir.
Thank you. Sorry, I just didn't want to have my mic pick up anything. My bad. Okay, so if we're going to talk about the music in regards to both of these films, Mean Streets definitely was the origin point for Martin Scorsese doing things later on, like Goodfellas and like Casino. But the way that music informs Taxi Driver, it is a solo brass instrument that plays the melody. It's meant to depict exactly how alone Travis Bickle is. Not only does the music add to the film, but informs the character. Now, when it comes to the different elements of Taxi Driver that make it absolutely brilliant, it's the level of neuroses that Travis Bickle demonstrates from having this PTSD from being in Vietnam. And it is an absolutely tragic thing for him to have to deal with. He feels alone, he feels isolated, and through that, he begins to lash out. And that's part of the reason why Scorsese used the first person perspective, is because he wanted you to try and get into the mind of this person. And it's something that we see used in a lot of different films nowadays, specifically a film like Joker. Part of the reason why a guy like Todd Phillips used Taxi Driver as a template is because of the success that it had in displaying that. Now, the thing about Taxi Driver that kind of just changes it from just being a very good film to an absolutely excellent film is the performance from Robert De Niro. If you're going to take these two films, Robert De Niro's better performance is undoubtedly in Taxi Driver. I would say his performance in Taxi Driver is better than any in Mean Streets. Now, with that, you do have other performances that are absolutely terrific, like Harvey Keitel in Taxi Driver and Jodie Foster in Taxi Driver. It's not just his film. There are other elements to it. But at the end of the day, what Scorsese is able to achieve within Taxi Driver is far greater than the building blocks that he laid in something like Mean Streets.
I'm assuming that's going to be the end of Sean's time. Thank you very much. Just a quick note for the both competitors. If you have a good chunk of time left at the end of your round, you can go ahead and say you can see the time. But with that, we're going to go right into the 4-minute open debate. This is my favorite stage. So we're going to get these guys go head to head and see how they do. So you guys got 4 minutes whenever the first person speaks.
So, yeah, I want to talk about the performances because, yeah, sure, Rob, he's amazing in Taxi Driver. But I think as a whole, as a film, I watched Mean Streets again for the first time. It's some of my favorite acting as a whole in any movie I've seen. The realism of these conversations, like it doesn't even seem like it's a movie sometimes. It seems like these guys, Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro, are just literally talking to each other. They're these characters. They're not even Harvey Keitel, Robert De Niro. They're Johnny Boy and Charlie, and they're just talking to each other and they're having these real conversations. And you can really feel these guys trying to come in age, trying to make it in this world, and they're just trying to survive in this. In Taxi Driver, you just have, it's kind of I hate saying this, sounds blasphemous, but it's kind of a one note. It's just, he's just kind of just bland the whole time, just going through this, and it's just dark, and where it's just going down and down and down and down and down, and eventually it explodes. In this, it's more of a roller coaster. You have these ups, you have these downs, you have moments of lashing out, you have moments of restraint, you have all these things that we go through when you're in your coming of age years.
Okay, I don't really think that Taxi Driver descending into madness is necessarily a point against it, to be honest with you. When it comes to Travis Bickle, what he attempts to do is he attempts to re-establish himself within society. He tries to reconnect to a human side. That's the whole reason why he tries to bring out Sybil Shepherd's character to a film. You know, she's meant to be this linchpin for him, and when it doesn't work out, he loses his mind. Now, with something like that, it's not one note. You see this degradation over a period of time, and you see that there's more to him than just the one note of like, oh, bland, blasé. That's so far from the truth. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, I'm just pointing out. I'm just pointing out that I feel like as a whole, the cast it just works and everything meshes together better because there's just more to work with in Mean Streets. And you mentioned the city, using the city as a character. They use Little Italy just as well as they use dark New York City. It's kind of just reverse. It's more vibrant. It's brighter. You can see they're kind of working, since it's working in the daytime. You can see it's just kind of, it's a good juxtaposition. Like it's like bright and happiness, but then you have the things that they're dealing with are dark. It's not just complete, like it's dark moment, dark scene. Here's what, it's dark moment and dark scene. You have that nice juxtaposition of like bright color, but then you have these horrible things that are happening to these characters.
So let me just ask you something really quickly. Your point, and just so I'm getting this correct, I don't want to misrepresent you, is that you have more to work with an ensemble cast. And that's what works more for you, right?
Yeah, I like, with seeing the characters.
Well, it's a bit of a non-argument. Yes, one's an ensemble cast and one is a film about one specific person. Now, don't get me wrong, there's other people within that film, but to try and make an argument as to why an ensemble cast works, it's the way the film is structured. It's not necessarily something that, adds or detracts from the film.
Well, the way things are structured, it does add or subtract to the film because that's what people go towards. Like if people want that, they get that. If you want that, they get that. So
if you want to go off of the amount of cultural impact that something's had, Taxi Driver far outweighs Mean Streets by a country.
But you don't get that without Mean Streets.
And time. Wow, a great match already. I can tell these gentlemen are going to do well in this league just by these 3 rounds already. But we're going to finish up when we go right back to Brandon for your 1-minute closing, sir.
So when I think of Martin Scorsese's best film, I think of the best Scorsese film. Now, it sounds like I'm just wording things differently because I kind of am. But when I think of Scorsese film, I think of, mobster elements. I think of crime elements. I think of amazing use of popular music. And that all started in Mean Streets. We don't get anything from Martin Scorsese without Mean Streets. And I think that makes the film stand on its own. We get these amazing, it's not really an ensemble. We just have these two, it's mainly Harvey Keitel, Robert De Niro standing on their heads, and you have these amazing background characters with them, but you have these two characters. You have this amazing coming of age story that is so different from something like Goodfellas because in that they're successful. This, they're just trying to make by, and it's such an enjoyable film to watch. Has horrible moments at some times, has great moments at some times, and it's just, I just love this movie.
And that is time for you, Sean. You get the exact same 1 minute when you begin speaking.
The point that you made at the end of that debate round, where we wouldn't get Taxi Driver without Mean Streets. Well, we wouldn't get Mean Streets without Boxcar Bertha. So if we're just going off of what film was made before, that's not really a very good argument. Now, when it comes to Taxi Driver, it has the most cultural significance of any film that Martin Scorsese made in the 1970s. That is without question. It is also nominated for more Oscars than Mean Streets. Just not an appeal to authority, but at the end of the day, it was the more successful film of the two. Now, when it comes to performances, Robert De Niro is leaps and bounds better in Taxi Driver than he is in Mean Streets. He's very good in Mean Streets, but Taxi Driver is one of his seminal works. I'm going to concede my time.
All right, that's going to tie up the first round. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That was an amazing first round. You guys kicked off your debut very well. I honestly didn't do a lot of fact checking because I was focused on judging the match. Aaron, if you have any fact checks you want to spout from the ether there.
I'm technically not supposed to be here, but keep breaking the fourth wall, buddy. We'll be in a Deadpool movie soon enough.
Oh, I'm just going off of the whole She-Hulk theme, but I guess we're not ready for that. But
the green in the background.
The internet's not ready for that. I want to keep my show, okay?
Well, that explains the green in the background. So okay.
that was actually not planned. That's not planned. But I just want to say a great first opening round for the both of these guys. I'm terrified to go up against either one of them. But enough saying about that. Jonathan, we're going to go to you. Who gets your point and why?
Point to Brandon on it for Mean Streets because he pointed out during his main argument to talk about the music tracking shot along with it, the pulsing, and basically some character work along with it, and talk about lighting along with it. Well, Sean did mention about the porno scene in the theater, but I didn't hear a lot more scenes of it for Sean's for Taxi Driver, though. I think there were a couple instances that he could have gone that you didn't hear, or I didn't hear mentioned a little more, you talking to me type of thing, or any other promotional scenes for that film. So I didn't hear that enough for Sean, so I would give my point to Brandon.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. We're going to go right over to Mr. Allen. Go ahead and give us your point, and as concise as manner as you can, tell us why they got the point.
Well, this was good arguments on both sides. It's hard to pick a director's favorite film from an era. Which one was better, and when you got somebody like Scorsese who don't have many misses, and particularly with these two films going head to head, both great films. But I'm gonna actually go with Sean because he was talking a lot about, he didn't have to mention a lot of scenes from Taxi Driver because he brought up the fact that everybody knows them because it is such a seminal kind of thing. And the performance of Robert De Niro was really leaps and bounds what it was in Mean Streets. So I'm going to go with Sean.
All right. Thank you very much. That means it's up to me, unfortunately. I hate doing this, especially when it comes to very good debaters. I don't like picking between each side. But these gentlemen really brought it. I was flip-flopping the entire match. Brandon really had some good points. Brandon and Sean had some really good points with the technical side about using music. It was mainly focused on the performance side of it. And I really don't think they got one up on each other on the performance argument. But what did get me is Sean talking about just the cultural importance of Taxi Driver and won the more Oscars, and he was able to support it with the better performance by De Niro. So I went with Sean for this round. So with that, the score is now 1-0. Sean, gentlemen, that was a great first round. Don't beat yourself up at all.
By the way, I love Mean Streets.
I love Taxi Driver.
Yeah, see, it's like
this was a case of like when I wasn't used to the format of like when you pick the questions. And I was like, oh wait, why am I researching this stupid? And then by the time I got to it, you already took it.
I can tell you from experience that first match is always.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was like every man for himself.
yeah.
Well, we're going to go right into your guys' second question, which also happens to do with movies before the 2000s. And about movies that I really have no expertise in. I don't know really much about any of these kind of movies, but your question is what is the best sports film released in the 1980s? I can't talk about any of these, so I can't talk about sports films. I can't talk about 1980s because I'm a baby. So I'm going to let you guys do it. Sean, you are going first this round, so whenever you begin speaking, you got a minute.
I went with The Natural. The Natural is a terrific film by Barry Levinson, stars Robert Redford, and it's about a man who is attempting to rekindle his ability to go play baseball. And after sustaining a horrific injury, there's a little more to that, and I'll save that for the rest of it. But yeah, my choice was The Natural because it is a friggin' terrific film.
All right. Saving everyone time. Let the person behind the screen do the thing. And we're going to go right over to Brandon. Brandon, you got a minute. Don't worry, we'll give you those 3 seconds when you begin speaking.
I better. Okay. All right. I would like to open this argument with a poem, if you'll indulge me. And the poem is: rising up, back on the street, did my time, took my chances, went the distance. Now I'm back on my feet, just a man and his will to survive. Beautiful words by the band Survivor. That the epitome of the 1980s, the epitome of sports movies. I, of course, went with the best Rocky, Rocky 4. Rocky 4 has everything you need in a sports movie and everything you need. It is the 80s sports movie. We'll get into the villains. We'll get into the performances. We'll get into the montages. We'll get into all this stuff that Rocky 4 has after the break.
All right. And with his word, we will be going to our sponsor for today, Raid Shadow Legends. I'm just messing with you, Aaron.
Oh, fuck. Please, guys, you sponsor anybody. Sponsor me. Pay me.
Anyway, we're going to go right back over to Sean for your 2 minutes. So whenever you begin speaking.
Okay. So with The Natural, it's a terrific sports film just in general. It's got unbelievable performances from Robert Redford, from Glenn Close.
Can hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry, I thought
You're good. You're good.
I thought he said he couldn't hear me for a second. I thought he did something with his ear.
I was never mind. Sorry.
Oh, my bad on that one then.
No, it was me.
Anyways, don't restart my time. So it's a terrific film in so many different regards, and amongst 80s sports films, it doesn't fall into a ton of the cliches that wind up bogging a lot of them down. Now, amongst those great performances, you have a story that is really about a man who is deeply hurting because his career was taken away from him. It was taken away by a woman who's attempting to murder different athletes in order to garner fame. Now, because of that, 16 years later, he decides what he wants to do is go back and try to rekindle his ability to play baseball. And so with that, he winds up doing absolutely incredible at a later stage of his career. It's a great underdog story. It's a great comeback story, which is the theme of a lot of really great sports films in general. And The Natural in particular hits it really, really well as far as 80s sports films go. I can see the rest of my time.
All right. And shaving off a whole minute there. That's a bold choice. We're going to go right back over to Brandon. Brandon, you got 2 minutes. Again, we'll give you those 3 seconds whenever you begin speaking.
Okay. So Rocky 4 is the 4th movie in the Rocky franchise. We all know the story of Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion, the boxer with the biggest heart in the world who can be stopped, as we've seen, but will keep pushing through. And these elements are everything that a sports movie needs. He is America's ultimate underdog. And in this one, he is going up against the big bad Russian, which was prevalent at the time. We had that country versus country element into it. And not only that, we had elements of, we all know, Ivan Drago killed Apollo Creed. So Rocky needs to get that revenge. We have that revenge tale. We have that villain that he is striving to defeat. And it's all to support his brother. He lost Mick good to this. He's at his lowest moments, and he has to dig down deep to overcome the odds and take down not only a Russian, but the entire country. It's not cliched because it's the one that brought all this in. It's the ultimate. It has the ultimate montage. It has the ultimate music. And it's just, sports movies are supposed to be fun. Sports are stupid. I hate sports because my teams are losing right now and I hate everything about it. But sports are dumb. Sports are you watching these guys overcome the odds. And that's what's fun about it. It's these guys, you're putting all your hopes and dreams into these people and watching them overcome these odds. So watching Rocky stand up against evil and overcome it is just the ultimate movie, because sports movies aren't supposed to be serious, and we'll get into the Natural later on, but Rocky 4 is the ultimate sports movie, the ultimate 80s movie, and it came out early in it or in the middle way and just really defined the whole decade.
And time. Thank you very much, Brandon. The only true thing that I can speak on in terms of sports is that looks like a Lakers jersey you have in the background there, and that's about as far as my expertise goes.
It's a Kobe Bryant jersey.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant. Yeah, I know that name for reasons. Anyway, we're gonna go into the 4-minute debate round. Aaron, please don't fire me. Whenever someone starts speaking, we'll start the timer for you.
I don't know how you can say that sports movies aren't supposed to be serious when you're trying to argue a Rocky film, when the first 3 films in that were more or less serious. The third one kind of strays a bit, but the first 2 Rocky films are extremely serious. The first one in particular. Your film faces a few different problems. One, you didn't pick the best Rocky movie of the 80s to begin with, let alone the best sports film. Rocky 3 is a better film than Rocky 4. You picked the Rocky film in which Rocky has a talking robot that has the hots for Polly. Additionally, it wasn't even necessarily Ivan Drago who killed Apollo Creed. It was Rocky for not throwing in the towel. So at the end of the day, you're kind of like off base on at least your description of the film and sort of your general premise on what makes good sports films. Sports films can be serious for sure. Sports inherently aren't necessarily the most intellectually rigorous thing, but I think if we've seen anything from films like Moneyball, then sports films can be extremely serious and incredibly clever. So I don't fully know.
We're not dealing with movies like Moneyball right now. The robot in the beginning of the movie is there to point. Yes, they're ridiculous, and you can have serious moments. And Rocky 4 is very serious. You have the robot in there is just to point out the ridiculousness of the 1980s and of these things.
Is it?
I was just kind of battling a point where it's saying like Rocky 4 is cliched. Like sports movies, when I meant stupid was sports movies are supposed to be cliched. But you want to talk about cliche, The Natural is the biggest cliche of all time. Roy Hobbs is arguably one of the most boring characters in all of sports movies. I've heard of my good friend Will Cohen has said this before. He's Superman. And there's nothing more boring than Superman. Nothing can beat him. Nothing can hurt him. Nothing can slow him down. There is no underdog story because he just comes back and immediately over the top. There's no drama. He can't be hurt. It's just the ultimate cliche of this guy who just got shot and he comes back and he's just like hits home runs.
It's actually not, because if you're talking about being able to be hurt, the entire end of the film is kind of just them trying to figure out, is it really worth trying to re-achieve those things that you wanted for your younger self, even though it can potentially kill you in the end. Like when his wounds are opening back up as he shatters the lights, what they're trying to say is, was it really worth it when he knows that he has a son and a woman that he could actually go back to in the midst of all of this? That's actually an incredibly interesting question to ask at the end of a sports film. So to say it's cliche, I don't really think that that's the case whatsoever. Now, as far as talking about the robot and Rocky, it's not so much the 80s cliche as the fact that it's the moment your series jumped the shark. You had the gritty reality of a Philadelphia boxer in Rocky, and then it completely goes out the window in the 4th film. That's the biggest place where the movie completely goes off the rails. And then at the end, the speech that Rocky gives it's not really even that great. It's really, really fucking cheesy. Now, the other Rocky films had their cheesy moments, but they earned them. And at no point did Rocky 4 really earn what it needed to.
I don't think it's the moment that jumped. I think that this is the movie that adapted to the times. They've already done this 3 times. They need to do something different. So they kind of adapted to this 80s moment. You talk about, is it worth it? Rocky, all 9 of them are all about, is it worth it? Is what he's doing worth it? Is he putting his relationship on hold worth it? Eventually with his son, is it worth it?
Time. It's matches like these that make me hate the competitors. Because you guys are putting me in a very bad position as a judge because I have to pick between the two of you. With that being said, we're going to go right over to Sean. You got 1 minute left for your closing argument.
Like I previously said, the Natural winds up doing something really terrific with its ending, and on top of that, allows a character that had everything taken from him be able to relive his dreams. Now, those elements of it make it a good film to begin with, but you add the performances in on top of that, and it goes to a completely different level. The ending scene is absolutely iconic with him shattering the lights, and once again, his stitches opening back up. It just shows, was Roy Hobbs' journey through all of this worth it in order for him to get back to playing baseball when he could have done so many other things? That's my time.
All right. Make
Also,
this quick.
Survivor is from Rocky 3. Once again.
Well, we're going to go right over to Brandon. Brandon, you got 1 minute left in this round whenever you begin speaking.
All right. So sports movies are all about the underdog overcoming the odds and standing on top of the mountain. And no series tells this story better than Rocky. And Rocky 4 finally sees him reach it. He's the champ. And then he gets knocked down to his lowest point. He lost his brother. He lost his trainer at this point. He is as low as you could possibly get. And then comes in the Iron Curtain, the Russian from the other side. And he overcomes that to stand back up on that mountain point, holding his entire country with him. Is it cheesy? They have these moments, but that's what we love about sports movies. We love these big, iconic moments, this, just these beautiful characters just overcoming the odds and standing as champions.
And that's the time for the second round, the second question. Very great match, gentlemen. We're going to move you right on back to the back, and we bring forth our judges. Again, not really fact checking any of this round or this whole match, just because I'm focused on judging. So we're going to right into it with Mr. Allen over there. Who gets your point? And as concise as you can, why do they get it?
I'm gonna keep it short and simple. I'm gonna go with Brendan this time. He just gave me a lot more reasons why, that was the quintessential of the 80s, quintessential of the Rockies, quintessential of these things, the fight with good and evil and all that. And not just a little bit more from Brendan or from Sean with the Natural might was, iconic in these ways. So I'm gonna go with Brendan this time.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go second just because I'm going to keep it rotating. I know Aaron likes to make himself last, but I'm going to go and put myself in the rotation. I agree with Alan. I have to go with Brandon on this one as well. No real climax at all, but just because I feel like Sean made the mistake of really not talking about his movie too much, and the only thing I felt like he really hounded on was the ending scene and the lights, and that just wasn't enough to overcome what Brandon was saying about how this is about watching people overcome the odds, and how Rocky IV does that, and how good it is at doing that. And he was able to say why this movie is why we love sports movies. So with that, thank you very much, Jonathan, for being here and listening to the arguments. We'll need you for the next question. Great round, gentlemen. We're going to go right into our third question. Michael Myers has been in some movies like Halloween, Halloween H2. Oh wait, it's not that Michael Myers. We're talking about Mike Myers here, and the question is, what is Mike Myers' most underrated movie? Aaron's going to fire me for not being funny and not attracting viewers, and I totally get that. But with that being said, we're going to let these gentlemen talk because the more I do it, the stupider I sound. So, Brandon, we're going to go back to you for your 1 minute opening whenever you speak.
So this one is interesting because it all comes down to what you hear when you hear the word underrated. People think underrated, they think of movies you've never heard of. People think underrated, they think of movies that deserve more love, which they do. But there can be great movies that are still underrated. Now, Mike Myers, one of his best films all time is Shrek. And because of the monster that is Shrek and kind of some of the things that happened to the franchise since then, in time, Shrek 2 has become a very underrated film. I find it in some ways actually to be superior to the first Shrek, and I can see my time. I don't have enough to get into it.
No worries, no worries. Thank you very much. We're gonna go right over to Sean for your 1 minute as well.
So when it comes to Mike Myers films, Milo, God damn it. When it comes to Mike Myers films, they're usually pretty accurately rated. Things like Wayne's World are beloved. Things like The Love Guru are hated. And there's not a ton in the middle. But I managed to find one, I believe, in Mystery Alaska. It's a sports film and a film in general that just does not get brought up enough due to wonderful performances and some actual real communal beauty when it comes to the film. The way that the town winds up creating a sense of community and family amongst each other is actually really lovely to watch. And on top of that, it's a great underdog story, much like we were talking about in the last round. So I went with Mystery Alaska. I concede my time.
All right. Brandon, right back over to you for your 2 minutes when Aaron, mystery person, gets there with the timer. So whenever you start speaking.
So I think what makes Shrek 2, in my opinion, so underrated is just the esteem that is held for Shrek 1. And which Shrek 1 is incredible. And they had the impossible task of following it up. And they attempted to follow it up 3 or 4 times since then, not to greatest success. And I think that's what, in hindsight, has hurt Shrek 2. With all these bad sequels, now people are like, well, all the sequels are bad except for Shrek 1. Now, Shrek 1 won the very first Oscar for animated film, and Shrek 2 would have done that if it didn't run into The Incredibles. Shrek 2 ups Shrek 1 in every single way. They get bigger, they get badder, they bring in more characters, they bring in Farquaad's amazing. They brought in someone just as bad with the Fairy Godmother and Prince Charming. They brought in characters such as Puss in Boots. They brought the dragon in more. They had Shrek dealing with his own, deeper. He had even deeper problems to deal with in this one of like, I'm this ugly ogre that'll never be accepted. If only there was a way for me to be human. He becomes human and finds himself that's not who he really is. So he has this character growth throughout the second one that even one-ups completely Shrek 1. And I just really think that where they went with Shrek 3 and Shrek 4 and all the other spinoffs, it really hurts Shrek 2 because they're like, oh, they should have just stopped that first one. But really, Shrek 2 is one of the greatest sequels of all time. They did something impossible and came up with something great. And look, I was shocked to see 69% on Rotten Tomatoes by the fans, which is just criminally low for a movie that good.
All right, that is your time. Thank you very much. Sean, you got 2 minutes to explain your point whenever you begin speaking.
So when it comes to Mystery Alaska, it is a film that is just not brought up at all, unlike the Shrek films. It's not brought up, but the thing is, it is actually a genuinely good film. It's really, really warm-hearted. It has great comedy. Russell Crowe's fantastic in it. Burt Reynolds is fantastic in it. You have a litany of different awesome moments throughout the film, whether it be, Mike Myers' line, a place where I can find a rub and tug, where it comes absolutely out of nowhere and is friggin' hilarious. You're just sitting there watching it. Or you get the ending scene, which is absolutely terrific, where they play the New York Rangers. on their pond, which is it's once again just absolutely fantastic. And while they don't win the game at the end of the film, the ability for them to come together as a community, heal old wounds, and basically enjoy their love of the game of hockey just makes it an overall really good film. And it's one that just does not get talked about whatsoever. So in my mind, that makes an underrated film. So yeah, I can see the rest of my time.
All right. Sticking with his approach, we're going to go right back. Well, actually, we're going to open up to the both of you. So whenever the first person begins speaking, we'll start the time. But just try to keep it civilized, try not to speak over anyone, because I failed to mention that in the previous 2 rounds. But also, just try not to hog most of the time either. With that being said, whenever the first person starts speaking, we'll go ahead and start the timer for you.
So I like Mr. Alaska. I'm also like a diehard hockey fan. First off, the hockey's terrible in it. It is unrealistic completely, and it's not. I like it more for just like a silly sports movie as like an actual hockey movie. I think it's perfectly rated. I think people who it might be unknown, but in terms of ratings, people who have seen it, it is perfectly rated. I mean, not to go back to Rotten Tomatoes, but like around 70% is right around where you would want for like a silly sports comedy. I think it's kind of just that's all it is. It's a silly sports comedy. It tries to tug at the heartstrings, but it's really just these like the comedy doesn't match the heart. It has these silly one-liners from these characters. It has just raunchy jizz jokes, and it's just kind of dated at this point. Like I loved it when it came out. I watched it again honestly, I watched it again recently, and it just does not hold up anymore. Because the comedy is just like really, really 90s. It just doesn't work.
I personally disagree with you on that. I think the comedy still works. And I think the performances are good enough to actually kind of outweigh some of the 90s tropes. That being said, I fail to see where a film that you bring up, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, has an 89% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and made nearly $1 billion at the box office, is in any way, shape, or form underrated.
Well, we're not.
Here's the thing. Your film is really good. And yes, everyone talks about 3 and 4 being bad within the Shrek films. But no one talks about 2 being bad. Like no one talks about 2 being
bad. But what I'm saying is because of 3 and 4 and the Puss in Boots spin-off movies, 2 has gotten lost in the shuffle. It's kind of like the Halloween movies where it's like they make all these other movies and then it's like, you know what, let's just go back. They're rebooting Shrek and they're pretending Shrek 2 doesn't exist anymore. They're pulling a Halloween where they're just making a direct sequel to the first one. That is actually a movie that is coming out. So what I mean by underrated is, yeah, you can have a great movie, you can be Oscar nominated, but it should be even higher. Critics, I don't even count the critics. It's this 69% audience score. There's clearly people that are pushing this movie aside.
Look, there's multiple different sites with different ratings for the film. At the end of the day, you have loads of people that genuinely love Shrek 2. And the thing is, to say that it is underrated in any way, shape, or form is a little ridiculous.
I don't find it ridiculous at all, because it all depends on how you look at underrated. You could have movie like I would say, you look at movies that are nominated for Oscars. There's movies that are nominated for Oscars that should have won it. That makes it underrated. If a movie wins an Oscar, that could make it overrated. The term rated is all in the eye of the beholder. For me, I stand by that it is underrated because it is not spoken to as the same reverence as the first one. And it is a film that I truly believe is better than the first one.
Okay, you can say that it's better than the first one. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's underrated. Like, it really doesn't. Like, at the end of the day, to me, what underrated means is underrated is a film that is not viewed by the general public. And at least not viewed to be as good by the general public as let's say as much as it should be. And don't get me wrong, your film is good and I'm kind of just fucking.
You say general public, but you mentioned critic scores, and I'm saying 69%.
Yeah, at the end of the day, your film is good. It's really good, but it's not underrated by any stretch of the imagination, at least not in my opinion.
All right, that will be time for the both of you. I feel like
Good one.
this is the origin of a villain story for one of these guys. Stay tuned to find out which one it's going to be. But we're going to move over to your final 1-minute closings. Brandon, over to you whenever you start speaking.
So we could go back and forth on the definition of underrated, but that really is the beauty or the curse. The reason why I kind of hate the term underrated, because it depends on so many factors. And in my case, yeah, I took a good movie, but we're rating it to the original Shrek. We're holding it in the light of the original Shrek. And when you do that, it is not held in the same light. I prominently believe that it deserves to be. I think it is a better film. You bring in John Cleese, you up Farquaad with the fairy godmother and Prince Charming. You push the envelope even more, which should be an impossible task. Yet it is still, he says, my opponent said it should be held in the public light. 69% held in the public light. That does not seem to be a movie that is beloved by all when it really, really should be, because it is one of the best sequels of all time.
Thank you very much, Brandon. You're incredibly correct with this is a hell of a question to argue, which is why you're going to come to hate Aaron for asking underrated questions. That said, we're going to go over to Sean. Sean, you got 1 minute left.
Admittedly, it's a pretty pedantic argument. I just went off of the initial idea of what underrated means, which is a film that is really not viewed by many people and then actually deserves more credit. Now, if you're going to try and play like this game where you're going to try and compare it to the first film, then, okay, maybe you have a point there. But at the end of the day, like, I just don't really see how a film that made nearly $1 billion at the box office has a 7.3 on IMDb as opposed to the 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, and was nominated for an Academy Award can wind up being called underrated. And like you said, the only reason why it didn't win was because The Incredibles came out. So I think this is a little bit pedantic, but yeah, to me, Mystery Alaska, a film that nobody really brings up, is definitely a more underrated Mike Myers film than something like Shrek 2.
All right. That will be Sean's time. Thank you, gentlemen, for that third round. I'm an idiot and making mistakes. That said, we're going to bring in judges. I'm going to go ahead and go first on this round. These gentlemen really brought it, and they continue to bring it, and I'm here to see it. They're incredibly correct. It's hard to argue the underrated question, which is why I think Aaron continues to ask it, because you can bring in so many aspects, so many factors, whatever, to make your argument. And like his gentleman said, you can go back and forth arguing what it means to you, but Sean won it for me in the end, just by bringing in just sheer numbers and sheer facts, which is what I feel like you have to do in terms of underrated. He just brought in the IMDb rating. He brought in box office scores. He talks about how no one really views Shrek 2 as being bad. And Brandon was just saying how his movie was great. I wasn't getting as much why his movie was underrated. So I'm giving my point to Sean on this one. So Jonathan, we'll go over to you for your verdict as well.
I have to defer on this. I actually give my point to Brandon, because he really pointed out some why Shrek 2 is underrated compared to like the first Shrek and even some films afterwards, and he pointed out some legitimate reasons that why it's more underrated to compare to others, compared to Sean's pick with Mystery Alaska.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. That means for the second time we're going to go to our tiebreaker. Alan, who do you get the point and why?
This was interesting because the whole what is underrated, by whose metric are you serving, whose standard. I think Brendan did a very great job arguing that Shrek 2 may be underrated in a sense that in the Shrek franchise and the fan of Shrekdom, people forget about Shrek 2. I forgot about Shrek 2. All I remember are the bad ones and that there was a Shrek 1. So he did a great job there. But which film was more underrated and a great film? in the Mike Myers category. I never even heard of Mystery Alaska. I don't know what the hell that is. But so I think I'm going with Sean as well, because he made up a good point about truly being underrated on all the categories, not just within a certain subsect, but all of them. That Mystery Alaska, and he gave a nice explanation at the beginning about why he thought it was a good film, and he got me interested in seeing it. Now I want to see it. So that's to me, he gets the point.
All right. Thank you very much, judges, for your help. We're going to bring our competitors back in. Great job, guys. Like, you guys are
bag.
Yeah, me too. Not to lie.
I thought I had one in the bag, and I was like, okay, well, I guess he's going to go up 2-1 on me. Look.
Things can change very quickly in the movie Battleground, and you guys seem to be very close in level. So it's going to be see where you guys go forward. As many times as I've said that already in this video. And with that being said, we're going to my favorite question of the match. No favoritism here, but I'm kind of mad at the choices. You didn't pick a very obvious choice. But with question number 4, it's actually a viewer submitted question. So if you guys are interested in submitting any questions, I know Aaron uses every question you submit to him. It just takes a little bit of time for him to put it into a match. So if you're interested in doing that, you can go ahead and email Aaron. You can see the email down below there. Just make sure to have your name in there, because he doesn't want to have your question in your match, because that would make it really unfair. But yeah, with that being said, the viewer submitted question is submitted by Austin the Pez Howell. What is the most exciting car chase in a film? And without any spoilers, I'm kind of mad that you guys didn't pick Baby Driver. But with that being said, I believe we go back to Sean. Sean, you got 1 minute for your opening whenever you begin speaking.
I picked Terminator 2 because it's an extraordinarily dynamic chase scene. It's not just two cars trying to chase each other. It's an 18-wheeler, a motorcycle, a dirt bike. It has all those facets that lend itself to being a great car chase scene. So with that, it's not just that it's a dynamic scene. It's the way that it winds up impacting the film and the characters going forward and the stakes that it raises. And with that, I'll just concede my time.
All right. Brandon, whenever the timer gets ready, you got a minute as well. Hold on just 1 minute. Yeah, you got a minute whenever you're ready.
So everybody likes a car chase. Every action film has a car chase. And every action film kind of does things the same way. You get these big, loud scenes where you have two cars or a motorcycle, which isn't a car, but I'm not going to push that point. You have them chasing each other. You have explosions going off. Yeah, it's exciting, and it was exciting. But I think for me, it's just really been hurt in the past few years with 14 Fast and Furious movies where we've seen cars explode before. So maybe at one point it was, but now it's time for something new. So I chose the intro scene to Drive. And what this does to me is with the music, with the low down music, it sets the tone for the entire movie. You think you're getting this one movie and it sets the tone like, oh shit, we are in for a different type of movie. And it keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time.
All right. That will be your time. I'm going to use this time to plug one of my favorite directors because his movie was brought up, Nicholas Winding Refn. No one can agree how to say his name. Please go check out his movies. They're great. I have no bias in this, by the way.
It's pronounced Nicholas, actually. People don't know that. I don't think it is. Never mind. Just kidding.
Sean, you got 2 minutes whenever you've been speaking.
Okay. So what the freeway chase in Terminator 2 winds up achieving is not only advancing the relationship with John Connor and the T-800, but it also raises the stakes in terms of seeing the difference between the T-800 and the T-1000. The T-800, when the 18-wheeler exploded in the first film, its skin was melted off. So it was a gigantic walking red flag. Basically, anyone could see it coming. But when it explodes in the second film, he just transforms back into Robert Patrick. Therefore, you realize like, oh, this guy can blend in absolutely anywhere. It makes it far more nerve-wracking as the scene goes on. On top of that, the chase begins off with John Connor on a dirt bike, and Schwarzenegger comes in, saves him, once again furthering their relationship and the protector bond that, you know, would later become like the linchpin of that film. But on top of that, then it transitions to a motorcycle chase scene with this 18-wheeler, which is absolutely fantastic. It winds up building tension. It does not let you go. And then even afterwards, you still don't feel completely settled once the scene's over. So yeah, that would be the reason why I think that T2's chase scene is fantastic and best chase scene ever.
All right. He's going to concede his time there. Brandon, you're going to have 2 minutes to further your point.
I was making a bad joke with the direct. With the
Okay.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay. Whenever you begin speaking, you got 2 minutes.
So I remember walking in to see Drive. I'd already seen Bronson at this point by the same director. I'm not even pronounce his name because we got into that. And the movie starts, and it's a dark scene in Los Angeles. You see downtown lights in the distance, and the guy's running, and it's just quiet. The whole thing is quiet, and you're like, how can you have a chase scene that's quiet, yet you can't look away? You have this ticking going off, and you have the music. I'm not even going to attempt to do it. You have this low, understated music, and they get in the car, and he doesn't go anywhere. Then he does, and then the cops go, and it's just cat and mouse game of sometimes he's going fast, sometimes he's going slow. He's hiding under bridges. He backs away. He shuts off the lights at one point, and the action completely stops. Yet you still can't look away. You're drawn into this because it is so understated. It's completely different than anything we've seen before. And one of the most amazing things is in car chase, he gets away. And how does he do that? Not by these explosions, not by these, not by all these huge set pieces. He gets away just through his skill, through his patience, and through strategy. He ends up blending into downtown. If you've ever been there, down there, it's a madhouse. So he blends in to downtown Los Angeles, throws on a Clippers hat, just books out of the cars and leaves the guys to go on his own. He saves himself. And when that scene ends, you're just sitting there like, wait, was that just a holy shit? He just got away. I'd never seen anything like that before. And it's completely riveting. And it's such a juxtaposition from what car chases have become in the future, or in the present and in the future. And it's just stands out on its own. And it brings a whole new layer of excitement that I didn't know I could have in a completely different style.
And that will be your time. These are two very great movies, and I'm excited. This is what Battleground is all about. It brings these two completely kind of unrelated movies, and you have to fight against them. And it's just a lot of fun to watch. With that being said, we are going to go into our 4-minute open debate period. You guys know what's going on already. The timer will begin speaking whenever you begins. The timer will begin ticking whenever you begin speaking.
I'll let you take it.
Man, it's all you, man, if you want it.
Okay, I'll take it. So my biggest knock on Terminator 2 is, like I said before, at one point in time, it was hands down the best car chase of all time. But I think it's been hurt through all these, like I said before, all these movies have car chases. We have 9 Fast and Furious movies. We have 18 Transformers movies. It's hard to keep track. And now going back to it, you watch it, you're like, oh, that's pretty good. It's great in this movie, but like, I've seen this before now. Now we're looking at staying power. We're looking at how something holds up. And unfortunately, an action scene that big has just been kind of overshadowed by these other CGI garbage messes that have come out, these giant franchises in the future, or in the present now, but you know what I'm trying to say. But so
okay, so keep going if you want, man.
I'm just saying the reason I picked Drive is because it's going to be timeless. It's going to hold up because there's nothing else like it. It keeps your excitement in a completely different way. in a way that hasn't been done before, and I don't know if we'll see it again. So it just has that staying power for me.
Okay, if we're arguing on what is timeless, Terminator 2 is, 30 years later, is still considered to be one of, if not the best car chase scenes ever. And the thing that it does, unlike the films that you brought up, is it actually has stakes to it. They're being chased by an unstoppable force. You never get that feeling in any of those Fast and Furious movies. And that's where that film succeeds, where those films fail. Now, if we're talking about Drive, the opening to it, it's really understated. Everything you said's right. It's really good. But to me, it's a really good character introduction as opposed to what my scene does, where it succeeds on multiple levels. It's not just exciting. It furthers the dynamics between characters. It furthers the stakes that are going on throughout the film that will later on impart. It's not just a chase scene for the sake of a chase scene. It's a chase scene that informs the rest of the film going forward. And that's where Terminator 2 succeeds on an entirely different level than the majority of car chases that just to begin with.
But unfortunately, we're not dealing with emotional stakes. The way the question is worded is most exciting car chase. So yes, this is exciting. Drive also sets the film off in a complete. It's the opening scene of the movie. So you come in, the theater's quiet, the movie's quiet. You're locked in on this screen, and it just captures you throughout the entire thing, and then launches you into the rest of the movie. So we are unfortunately dealing with just excitement here. So I think my movie, just the way it captures the audience's excitement from the get-go of the film, with it doesn't need explosions. It has the emotional stakes, right? You said it's a character introduction, but it also uses understated. It uses the music. It uses lighting. It uses the city that they're in, and uses a police radio. It uses all these elements. So it is actually kind of overloading you in a completely different way.
I'll give you that it is really, really cleverly written, and it is really good. But if we are just going off of excitement, and that's really it, because if I'm not mistaken, I thought the question was written a little bit differently when preparing for this question. But if we're just going off of excitement, the level on how dynamic the chase scene actually is, and just the fact that it has explosions isn't a deterrent from how good it actually is. Yes, it ends with an explosion. It has explosions going through it. But the excitement comes from the fact that they are being chased by an unstoppable force. It is the amount of terror that you wind up feeling as a byproduct of that makes the film that makes the scene exciting, period. And that's why it's the best.
And time. Thank you very much to the both of you. We're going to go over to, I believe it's going to be Sean for your final 1 minute closing whenever you begin speaking.
Okay. Drive, while being a very good opening scene, doesn't hit the exact same level of heart-pounding excitement that Terminator 2 does. And that's because of the fact that you are dealing with, and for starters, an established property with something like Terminator. But on top of that, you have the unknown of what the T-800's doing there when you initially see the film. And then on top of that, you have the fact that it's a young boy that's going through all of this, heightening the terror on top of that. So by the time you're done with the scene, you're basically exhausted from how much that scene has worn you out. Now, Drive is a very good film and a very good opening scene. I'm not here to debate that. What I am here to just say is that at the end of the day, Terminator 2 winds up holding up in terms of timeless classics when it comes to chase scenes. And if we were going to go off of that, that definitely has to account for something.
All right, that will be your time. We'll go over to Brandon for your 1 minute closing as well.
So I think in terms of holding up, I truly believe that Drive is future-proof. We get all these, we get tons of these car chases, and we're going to get tons more to see, but I don't really think we're going to get anything like Drive. And to be able to do what it did, understated music, darkness, there is this terror. You have this unstoppable force, but you have this unseen force of the police. You just see police helicopter lights. You see siren lights in the background, but you kind of stay on the driver. You get this real sense of kind of like paranoia of like that you said paranoia. You get this paranoia of like, oh shit, they're gonna catch us. We're not driving fast enough. They're gonna get us. We better, but no. Ryan Gosling sticks with it. He sticks with the plan, outmaneuvers them, and you're just sitting there like we really feel like the guys in the back seat just kind of shitting your pants the whole time because you're not driving fast enough.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Another great round for the both of you. I'm really happy I don't have to go first judging this one. I think this is one of the best rounds of the match so far. So with that being said, we're going to go over to Jonathan. Jonathan, as concise as you can, go ahead and tell us who won your point and why.
This is very easy for me. I learned from by the opening argument and the closing from start to finish, and it's going to be still standing. I will pick Brandon for his sequence from Drive because you point out every specific detail that why his car chase didn't compare with Sean's with the Terminator 2 car chase is more significant and more exciting than Sean's because he pointed out to some little details along his car chase to compare to his and some knocks on Sean's though. So I will give my point to Brennan, but
all right, Alan, we're going to go right over to you as well.
Good arguments from both, honestly. But I'm going the opposite way. I'm going with Sean because he gave us even more intimate details about the characters' motivations within the car chases, and on top of everything through line, what it did for the film and what it did for car chases for the rest of history, culturally and filmmaking wise. So I'm gonna go with Sean.
I hate you guys for making me choose.
Sorry, Noah. Sorry, brother. I know, but you got to do it.
I signed up to do this. Like Brandon, answer the question more accurately about the excitement. He was able to bring in that it shows the skill of the driver. Again, like all these little details. He said the paranoia creates this tension, this excitement. I had something else I was going to say. I totally forgot what it was, but I feel like Brandon was really able to tell me why it's the most exciting car chase in film. Maybe not necessarily the best, but the most exciting. So I'm going Brandon for this one. Thank you, judges. We're going to send you to the back. This is a hell of a match for the both of you because you guys are going to the blind round for your first match ever. How are you guys feeling about that?
I like it. Bring it on.
Ready for it?
Chaos.
All right. So the question the players are about to be given is one of which they do not know what it will be ahead of time. I'm going to give them a general prompt to which they must respond. Whoever answers first always goes first. Once they have answered, the full question will be given to them. Even if they feel their answer doesn't 100% fit the question, they must do their best to debate it for the win. They're going to have a few moments. They're going to have about how much time we decide, but for the audience, it's going to be a couple seconds for prep time, and then they'll debate with the same rules as the first 4 questions. I love this. I love this blind round. I've played it maybe once or twice. I hate playing it. I love watching it. So good luck to you, gentlemen. If you guys are ready, I'll go ahead and issue the general prompt. Name me a Pixar film.
Inside Out.
Can I ask who said that? Sorry, I didn't catch it. Okay.
Sean did. Do I have a time limit?
No. Well,
I mean, I'm not gonna take 20 minutes. I'm just thinking
here. You're not being held to a clock. Don't worry.
Toy Story 2. Shrek. No.
All right. Your question. What is the best Pixar film of all time? All right. We're going to take a brief delay for you guys. Again, it's going to be a couple seconds. Thanks to Aaron's magic, but we'll see you guys then. We are back. Welcome back, everyone. I know those a long couple of seconds for you, but we have two great answers for the question here. What is the best Pixar film of all time? I have to control all these banners now, so that's going to be fun to do. So let's figure out how to do this. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to add that ticker. Yep, that's what we do. All right. I believe, Sean, you answered first.
Mhm.
So I've had Aaron do all this behind the scenes, so I have to do everything. No, that's not how they do it. There we go. We're kicking with gas. All right, Sean, you answered first, so you get 1 minute whenever you begin speaking.
I personally chose Inside Out as the best Pixar film due to its level of maturity. It wound up elevating itself above other Pixar films due to the fact that it not only grew with the audience that it, initially came up with, but it also allowed for that audience to remember things about how things changed in their life and how they dealt with it. So with that, I'm just going to concede the rest of my time and say, yeah, Inside Out is absolutely terrific.
So when you think Pixar, you think this
Oh,
giant.
My bad. I was muted the whole time, so my bad. Whenever you're ready, Brandon, I'll start it for you.
Yeah. Okay. So when you pick Pixar, you think of this juggernaut in the animated space, and you think of that because of its wide appeal to every audience. Like Pixar movies have the ability to do everything. They can make you cry, they can make you laugh, they can make you fall in love with characters. This is what makes them stand out as one of the best film production companies of all time. And because of that, I went with Toy Story 2 because it has this amazing concept that they brought in the first one of what if toys come to life, and they brought somehow even more emotion to it than the first one. They brought more laughs than the first one. They've really they have like it's amazing, like Woody's story arc of what is a toy, what does it mean to be a toy in this movie. It sticks with me to this day. Like, what am I? This movie has everything for everybody, and it is the best Pixar film of all time.
And time. All right, Sean, right back over to you for your 2 minutes when you begin speaking.
So once again, it's the maturity of Inside Out. It doesn't just lend itself to children who are trying to learn how to deal with their emotions and the difficulties of how life changes, but it reminds adults of those changes that happen that they may have forgotten about or they've forgotten how to deal with. The aim of a great Pixar film, he's absolutely correct about. It's to delight children and adults and impart great lessons. Inside Out does that in spades. Inside Out just deals with the issues that previously some Pixar films would tend to shy away from, like depression, mania, extreme anxiety, and loss. And while loss is touched upon in things like Toy Story 2 and in things like Up, it's not as prevalent as in the main story as it is in something like Inside Out. Inside Out just shows exactly what Pixar is capable of when it comes to not only creating original IPs, but also just how insanely intelligent they are with who they're talking to when it comes to their audience. Not just kids, not just adults. It is for absolutely anybody that's dealing with a hard time, which there's literally nobody that hasn't. So I would say with that, it's probably the most universally appealable film from that studio. And it's undoubtedly their most mature and thoughtful one. So yeah, I would go with Inside Out as the best Pixar film of all time.
All right, thank you, Sean. I'm gonna try to skip ahead. Oh, hold on just a minute, back that up. Even more so. Be patient with me here. Sorry about this. All right, I'm gonna let it roll over. Brandon, if you're ready, you can start speaking when the timer goes out.
Okay. So I disagree that Inside Out deals better with emotions. It's a movie about emotions, but there is emotional journey for every character in Toy Story. And I'll get to that, but first I want to bring up what I feel like makes Toy Story 2 a better movie. It has everything that we've had from the first one. It adds more tears, more laughs. It has an amazing villain with the prospector, brings in new characters like Jessie, who has one of the most emotional scenes of she has gotten essentially thrown aside. She's been forgotten about. And you have that. I hate that scene of the Sarah McLachlan song, When You Loved Me, but that is one of the strongest, most powerful scenes of all time. You were loved and then you were just cast aside and no one cares about you anymore. And then she found this new kind of purpose in life of just being on a display on a stage, right? And what does that really mean? Like, who she has lost her love and no one cares about her anymore. You have Woody going through this arc that of like, am I supposed to be kept on a shelf? Am I supposed to bring joy and happiness to my owners? What does that mean? What is my purpose in life? You have arguably the best animated scene in history of this, of when Woody's getting fixed up by the repairman. That is the most, I don't care what anyone says, that's the most satisfying scene in film history, when he like has that nice little paint going up and down. This movie just has everything. I think it's an all-around better film. You get all the emotion, you get all the binding ties of growing up. It's for kids. They can still have fun, they can still have laughs, they can still be thrilled, and it's just all around a better film.
All right, that will be your time. And you know what this means, gentlemen. You're going into your 4-minute open debate period. I will start the timer when one of you starts speaking.
You want the ball? You can have the ball.
Oh man, hey dude, it's when one of us starts speaking. I'm thinking.
Okay. Sorry.
Let's fucking speak if you want to speak, man.
I mean, okay, I'll just go then. So this movie, Toy Story, both movies deal with loss and in different ways. And Toy Story 2 deals with the loss of innocence and the loss of your childhood. And that is something that all parents can watch. They're going to this movie for their kids, and they're seeing how much joy this movie brings their kids, but then they're watching on screen, they're remembering the times they had, their loss of innocence at growing up as a child, how they don't have their toys that once beloved anymore. They get thrown away, they get tossed in a pile, and they remember all these moments that they had growing up. And you have to deal with that. And Toy Story brings that in a comforting way of like, your childhood is always there. It isn't lost. You just have to re-find it. And both films do a good job. I think Toy Story just, it has that message for both adults and children.
I can see where you're coming from. I mean, at the end of the day, both our films really, in a lot of ways, are about loss. When you talk about Riley and her loss of, like her hockey team, her friends, her life, moving to a completely different place, that's a challenge for absolutely anybody to deal with. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what age you are. It can be a real difficult thing to move to a new place. Now, with that, there's an incredible amount of sadness, and it's constantly just trying to be pressed down upon, which is something that a lot of us actually try to do in our own lives. We try to avoid sadness as much as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, the film really tries to highlight that there is no true joy without sadness. You have to understand that without one, the other is completely meaningless. So when it comes to the way that it tackles emotions head on. It's not just, the allegory and all this other stuff, which is terrific in your film, by the way. I will not slag Toy Story 2. I am not here to do that. But when it comes to Inside Out, it just brings an entirely different level of maturity and understanding, and it imparts that message to kids. And I think that is so important for them to understand at a base level. And then it's so important to be reminded of that as an adult. And that's where Inside Out just winds up completely changing the game on how good Pixar can wind up handling these things. Not that it didn't handle it well before, but it just elevates, and that's what makes it the best.
And I agree with those sentiments. I still think that Toy Story 2 does a better job of kind of having something for everyone in terms of the emotion. Like as a kid, I don't know how much of I think some of the emotional stuff, like a really young kid, kind of goes over their heads a little bit in Inside Out. So I think it just does a better job of kind of making it for everybody in Toy Story 2. But it has more than just that. Toy Story 2, like there's a great cast in Inside Out, but I feel like they don't get enough chance to breathe. And in Toy Story 2, they brought in all these characters from the first one, and they give them a chance to shine. You get Rex playing the video game throughout the whole movie, being obsessed with this game, and it comes out to help him in the end of it because he knows the layout of the land. You have Mr. Potato Head, who is basically speaking to the adults because it's Don Rickles, and he gets his character growth. You bring in kids, you bring in Mrs. Potato Head, you bring in those fun moments for the adults to have. You have all these characters being juggled and being managed much better.
Okay, I agree that your film does a really good job in terms of pushing its characters forward. But to say that it would fly over kids' heads, there's anxiety, there's anger, there's sadness, there's joy. There is literally any kid has one thing that tends to make them a little bit different than someone else. So for a kid who's dealing with anxiety, they can actually see that on screen. I don't think that it doesn't exclude absolutely anybody. And it winds up actually appealing more to the overall audience as a byproduct of that. There's something that you can see inside yourself at every turn and Inside Out.
Time. I should pause that. Whoever, Sean, you'll have 2 seconds, I promise.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
You guys continue to impress me. You guys are doing amazing this entire match. That being said, we're going to go right over to Sean. You got 1 minute left whenever you begin speaking.
Personally, when it comes to Toy Story 2, while I enjoy it greatly, I think that Toy Story 3 tackles the difficulties of change better and more consistently than Toy Story 2 does. You know, whether it be Andy moving away to college or Woody's challenge of letting go of his best friend, these are all things that, you know, the second film really tries to address, but the third winds up really nailing. And as far as Inside Out goes, it winds up taking all of those things and then it matures the dialogue that it winds up having with its audience. It doesn't treat anyone like an idiot. I think it's actually very, very good that Pixar decided not to think that the kids who would watch their film aren't smart enough to understand it. That's something that a lot of films wind up failing to do. They wind up talking down to their audience as opposed to talking to them. And it's something that Inside Out just does absolutely perfectly. It's something that just makes it a true, genuine beauty of a film. Done.
All right. And then, Brandon, we're going to go right over to you. You got 1 minute as well when you start speaking.
So we've been talking a lot about emotions, and both films handle emotions, one literally, very, very well. I just think that Toy Story 2 handles the same emotions for a more broad audience. You have that feeling of loss. You have the feeling of loss of innocence. You have these parents who are attached to these characters because we've all been children before. We've all lost toys. We've all lost loved ones. We've all felt cast aside. We've all felt these things. And it has that moment, both of films. But for me, what pushes it above is everything else, because this is a kid's movie. It still needs to have the giggles. It needs to have the fun. It needs to have these enjoyable moments, because that's what makes these movies beautiful, because they go to every audience. And Toy Story 2 has those amazing moments. I remember going with my parents to go see this movie. Everywhere Miss Potato Head said, I didn't understand as a kid. My dad loved it. It has literally humor for everything. It has heart for everything, and all around for everybody.
All right, that will be your time. The end of the match.
You're a beast, dude.
Any more debating? You guys don't have to do any more. Kudos to both of you. Great first match. Sorry. That being said, I think in continuation with the sequence, I think we go to Mr. Allen first. So Allen, who gets the point for you, and as concise as you can get it? Why do they get
it? You're both beasts, so don't forget it. I'm going to have to give it to Brandon. I'm just going to let him squeak it out, because both very good. very nice, concise arguments for both films. I just got a little bit more that put me personally into Toy Story 2. I think if Brandon or if Sean would have gave us more specific scenes for Inside Out, he would have pulled me over. But Brandon, including some of the scenes that are just absolutely incredible, and going thematically on both what they were both talking about, I think Brandon hit it.
All right. And it goes to me. I'm not going to make you guys wait because that's going to be the job for Jonathan because I'm going with for this one. Sean just gave me a ton of information, a ton of reasons why this movie is the best Pixar movie. I feel like this is, of all the rounds, it's the one he dominated the most. He really had a lot to say about it. And it's not just he had a lot to say about it. The quality of his arguments was there. It's clear to see. He was talking about the different levels of maturity and how it gets better with age and everything like that. And the more you dive deep into it, the meaning it has to kids and just that it changes the game. And the main thing that got me to Sean's side is when he said that other Toy Story movies did what Toy Story 2 did. The other movies did it better. So that's why. So we'll go over to Jonathan. Jonathan, you're going to be the tie-breaking vote. Who gets your point is as concise as you can get it. How do they get it? Why do they get it? Sorry, I can't work today.
It's okay. You do a good job. All right. Same thing. It's a very tough one to choose. For me, what the caveman can do, who can basically, particularly what they're based on by scene for their movies respectively. And for me, the person who did that for me, Sean. Because Sean, for me, point out every detail he did for Inside Out and about the scene to some of the importance of why it's not only the best Pixar film, but he also pointed out the great themes away that every kid, adult, or teenager to relate about in that movie. And there's a good counterpoint for Brandon's for a little knockdown on Toy Story 2, though. So I will give my point to Sean for Inside Out.
All right. Thank you very much, Jonathan and Alan, for your help. Because your winner with a record of 1-0 with a score of 3-2, Mr. Sean Sandberg. Sean, congratulations.
Thank you.
How are you feeling after that win? Like, how are you feeling after that marathon you just did?
That was a nail biter, man. Like I've judged these so many times without playing in them. That way I could kind of like be like, I don't need to debate. I'm fine. I don't really want to know what that's like. And now that I've done it, for starters, it's fun as hell. Got tripped up a couple of times, which wasn't crazy about, but fine-tune some things, come back next time, see how I do again. But yeah, no, I love this. This was so much fun, and Brandon killed it. He was a fucking beast.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You are moving on to tackle a big challenge for a rookie. I know because have I played? I think I played one of these guys before. But your final match before the year ends is going to be the first triple threat match of the new Battleground era, excluding all the exhibition matches. You're going to be taking on a former tournament finalist, Medea or Raymond, as well as Andy Sweet. And a win here would be a big step. How do you feel about your opponents? Do you know anything about them?
I judged Medea's match versus Robert back in the day. From what I remember, he's a really good competitor. And yeah, I'd be really looking forward to playing him. Who is the other person? Out of curiosity?
Andy Sweet.
Andy Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with Andy Sweet. Feel bad about that, but not as familiar with him. But yeah, looking forward to playing both of them. That'd be dope.
He's originally supposed to be in this end of the year tournament, but due to some behind the scenes stuff he had to take care of, I'm actually in his spot. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a match. Guys, go stay tuned and check it out. Anything else you want to say? Anything you want to plug at all, Sean, before leaving?
Nah, man. I'm just to quote Clue. I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife. So, anyways, you guys have yourselves a good one.
All right, see you later, Sean. Thank you again. And time to bring in the unfortunate loser for tonight, Mr. Brandon Cohen. Brandon, how you feeling?
Bad. I mean,
Yeah.
It does hurt because I guess like this was behind the scenes. This was like a crazy day, and it wasn't able to kind of have the preparation and my notes and everything that I usually do. That being said, I honestly felt like I got off all my points I wanted to do. I was able to, put up the shots I wanted to. They just didn't fall my way. I think you never know with different, you can bring in one different guy, two different guys, three different judges, and this could go either way. I feel really good about a couple of the questions, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't go your way.
I can't speak about what your points were that you had on paper, but as someone who had them prepared and weren't able to bring them, you did a phenomenal job about bringing up some really good points. And you're right; it's always one judge away from an entire match changing, and you can watch some of the previous ones to see that as well.
Yeah.
But at 0-1, sorry, you're going to get a second match before the year is over as well, due to being so new to the league. You're going to be taking on a rookie as well, as we discussed. The rookie is Dean Lewis. He made his debut last week when he lost his match to Ryan Payne. How do you feel about coming back to the Movie Battleground after this? Is this going to fuel you into taking on that challenge?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I really do think I could beat anybody. I think my style of just causing chaos and just trying to throw people off is just like I said some outrageous crap today, but that's my strategy. He's shout out to Sean. I think he really was had the perfect style of being able to stay calm, cool, and collected around my style, and really counter it well. That being said, I will take on a rookie. I will take on give me John Marr, Jay Burns. I will take on all these guys, all these guys I hang out with, and I want to beat up on my friends and just talk about movies. And I'll play anybody. I will roll off the dome, make these crazy points I don't believe in all day, and until the cows come home. I don't care. Just give me anybody.
A Jay Burns match would be really, really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, because I've known him for a year and a half or 2 years now. Play with him all the time, and he never remembers my name. So screw that guy. I want to beat him up.
I think I'm seeing for the first time. Are you related to Will?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, no. I figured. I mean, you don't really look like him.
I hate that guy. No. Will and I are friends. Like we have no relationship, but he's the one that got. Will's actually I faced him in another league, and he got me into this league.
Gotcha.
So yeah, no relation to Will, but I'll beat that guy.
Well, I hope you stay around because it's a whole lot of fun, and there's different people you can play and different styles you can go against. But again, you had a great match. You went to the blind round, and unfortunately, you just weren't able to finish it. But you had some really good points there. So thank you so much for coming to the Battleground and just putting on such a great match. With that being said, thank you to all the judges behind the scenes. Thank you to Mr. Allen. I call him Alan because I keep forgetting his last name. I think it's Shepard, Alan Shepard. And yeah, there we go. Thank you to Jonathan Peck as well for coming in and judging this. Tune out the weekend, to check out both a new normal match and the next tournament match, which, funny enough, is going to be featuring Alec Miller and myself, your host for tonight. I can tell you that's going to be a good match, so go ahead and watch it. That being said, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all the things those cool YouTubers are saying. Leave a comment, tell us what you thought. Tell us any of your ideas for the questions. But thank you guys for watching. And that being said, and for Aaron, have a good night, everyone.